The battle over voting rights in this country. ABC News has learned that President Biden's going to huddle with Democratic senators on Capitol Hill tomorrow on the heels of that major speech in Georgia where he pushed lawmakers to change Senate rules in order to pass federal voting rights legislation. The president called the fight, quote, a turning point in our nation's history. But this issue's been stalled now for a year on Capitol Hill. A vote is expected by Monday, but Democrats still, it sure looks like, don't have the votes. So joining us now to talk about this, Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. Thanks for being with us, Senator.
Thanks. Great to join you.
So, when do you think we're going to see a vote, and why take the vote if it looks like it's doomed to fail?
Well, we are going to endeavor to start debate on the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act this week with the intention of having a vote on Martin Luther King Day on whether we should continue to allow the minority leader, Mitch McConnell, to keep on abusing the filibuster. And I think it's really important that every senator be heard on those issues, on the Freedom to Vote Act and on whether we are going to permit the minority leader to abuse the filibuster to prevent our most fundamental right, the right to vote.
And this was the part of the president's message yesterday. He gave that fiery speech down in Atlanta. But there were many voting rights advocates and supporters of the president who said that speech, fiery though it may have been, was too little too late, with midterms around the corner and Republican state laws already moving forward. Do you agree with that criticism? Should the president have prioritized voting rights earlier, do you think?
Well, I think that what we have seen throughout this year is the urgency become clearer and clearer and build and build. And I think Monday is the day that we should be voting. Every senator should be on record as to whether we're going to continue to allow the minority leader to block consideration of the Freedom to Vote Act. You know, last week, we celebrated, celebrated isn't the right word, we commemorated a very solemn anniversary, the somber anniversary of the insurrection on the democratic process of counting the electoral ballots that Trump incited. He started the big lie, and now we've seen that he has incited action and intimidation in almost every state in the union, aimed at voter suppression, intimidation of election officials, and it needs to come to a stop. And I can't think of any more poignant date on which to have every senator be heard on these matters than Martin Luther King's birthday recognition.
And that vote, if it is taken on that day, does throw into relief how things have changed. It was, as the president mentioned, a bipartisan agreement in the Senate for decades to pass and renew the Voting Rights Act, which was a more robust piece of legislation in many ways than the legislation that's being considered now. In states like Georgia, Texas, 19 others, 19 all told, have passed restrictive Voting Rights Act or voting rights laws. And I wonder about Wisconsin, the battle in Wisconsin. When you look back at your state, I know there have been struggles over the same issue. What do you see, and more importantly, why? What's changed in our country that this once was a matter of course, not quite a matter of course, but certainly a bipartisan issue in the Senate and across the country? What's changed?
Yeah, so let me just reiterate, in the House of Representatives, where I used to serve, the lead author of the Voting Rights Restoration Act was Congressman Jim Sensenbrenner, a very senior, very conservative Republican in a neighboring district to mine. That's how bipartisan this used to be. And so it is, I think, so much about Trump's big lie and the falling in line of too many Republicans to perpetuate that lie that has brought us to where we are. And we've seen that in the form of, as you just mentioned, legislation that's passed in a number of states that suppresses the vote. But we're also seeing it in a state like Wisconsin with raw intimidation, threats, and harassment of local and state level election officials. And it is unfolding as we speak with threats of felony charges and threats of arrests and people sitting in jail until they take depositions. It is being fought out right now in the ugliest of ways. And I think that's, again, a perpetuation of the big lie to reduce people's trust and faith in our electoral system. But frankly, it is undermining our very democracy, from the insurrection with violence a year ago to the threats and intimidation across this country today.
It's so striking, Senator, to see that in your home state, Wisconsin, where I went to college. It had for so long a reputation of high civic spirit, high civic solidarity, high voter turnout. And now you see this, as in so many states, this kind of battle playing out. President Biden,
yes,
in his speech, calling opponents out on this issue, said they'd be on the wrong side of history. So when you when you talk to Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema, the two senators on the Democratic side, who are on the other side of ending the filibuster, President Biden called them out by name. What do you talk to them about? How do you make the argument?
Well, over the course of the last many months, I have been bringing to them the example in my home state of how there have been effort after effort to cast doubt upon Biden's clear victory in November of 2020. He won by 20,000 votes. In the face of a pandemic, voters came out in record numbers in Wisconsin in 2020. And there was the initial tally, the county canvasses, two recounts in our two most populous counties, followed by a legislative audit bureau audit that found no irregularities or fraud that could cast the outcome in question. And still they go on trying to perpetuate the big lie. And that's what I've been talking to my colleagues, my two Democratic colleagues, who have yet to agree on their particular path forward. But I want them to know how urgent it is and how close we are to seeing an unacceptable, well, there's no acceptable level of voter suppression, but every vote deserves to be counted, and every eligible voter deserves to have access to the ballot box. We should be making it easier, not harder.
An ambitious agenda in a tough time. Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, great to see you. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.